In this video, I'm going to share with you why I feel schools do not prepare people to be successful in the workforce. Hey everybody, it's Brian from A Life After Layoff, and today I want to talk to you about why I feel schools are not preparing people to be successful when they enter into the workforce. As a corporate recruiter, an HR professional, and a career coach, I have seen a lot of people enter into the workforce, and let me tell you, a lot of them are woefully underprepared to be successful. What I mean is that schools are just not preparing people to be successful the way that they should be. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more videos just like this one, directly from a corporate recruiter and a career coach, please hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit that thumbs up button as well. It does help the algorithm get this message out to a broader audience. So I had a conversation with somebody recently about the skill set that people have entering into the workforce. But what I'm seeing as a career coach more frequently is that there is a major disconnect from physically being able to do the job, which is a competency that you're going to need to have, right? So we go to engineering school so that we can learn, let's say, electrical engineering. We can learn circuits. We can learn how power works or how electricity works. And let's face it, that's a pretty important thing to have formal education on if you're going to be working with electricity. But where the gap is that most of these people are coming into the workforce without any true career skills. And the difference being that it's kind of more the soft side of things. And it got me really thinking that universities, you spend so much money on a university degree, or and really it's the same thing with high school. You go through an entire 12 years in the United States. We go through 12 years of primary school to the point where we graduate from a high school with a high school diploma. And they offer very little in terms of preparation just to be a successful human being. Now, when I went to school, we had a requirement. There was one class that I took. It was called Home Economics, and maybe you all have taken this class too. But it basically teaches you how to do things like sewing a button onto a shirt, how to cook, how to clean properly. It's basically just like basic life skills that kind of are forgotten about. But what's particularly interesting, and this goes for both high school and for college, is when you exit out of that, you get the degree or the diploma, and you enter into the workforce, there's not a single course that prepares you to start your career. And not only that, it prepares you to be just successful in life. It's just a complete head scratcher to me, especially now if you look at college where you spend in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars getting a degree, but there's no preparation other than, okay, you know how to do the electrical engineering, go off and do it. But essentially you walk into these interviews and you walk into your career without any real preparation or any real knowledge of what you should be doing and how you should be treating your career, how to set yourself up for the maximum success and the chance to set career goals, but also be able to have the best chance at reaching them. So I end up doing a lot of reverse engineering in my career consultancy business, where people will come to me and say, I just don't know, my direction is kind of rudderless. I don't really know what to do next. Or I haven't been able to seem to get good traction in my career, and I just don't know where to turn. And that's usually where we start to unpack it. And it dawns on me as I'm doing these sessions, why are colleges and why are high schools not providing at least some base level training and preparation for people entering into the workforce? Now, maybe you got lucky and in your school, they maybe taught some of those courses or put together some classes for you or gave you at least some literature. But a vast majority of people, when I talk to them, as I'm putting on my recruiter hat now, a vast majority of people have no clue how to answer that question of what do you want to do when you grow up? And in general, when I see these candidates that are unprepared, and it's not necessarily a poor reflection on the candidate so much as it's kind of just a disappointment that these colleges that you're spending all this money going to and trying to prepare for a career just are not giving you the right tools necessary to actually truly have a successful career. They're just helping you get that first job. So I do have some ideas on what I think should be taught in college and high school in order to get your diploma or your degree. And walking into the workforce, everybody should have a base level understanding of money management and budgeting. I mean, the fact that you are sent into the workforce to try to earn a living and pay off your student loans in a lot of cases, but they don't teach you even how to manage your money or manage a budget. And this is base level stuff. I mean, most people probably, granted, checks are becoming kind of a thing of the past, but most people don't even know how to write a check out these days or balance a checkbook. So money management is just a head scratcher that they don't teach that as a core curriculum as part of your very minimum. I mean, it should be coming through the high school, honestly, and not even necessarily at college, at high school level. Taking that a step further, I also think people should be taught basic life finance, like what interest rates are and how credit cards work, what cash flow is, and how to set up a savings account. You know, those basic things that should prepare any adult to be successful in the workforce. They're just not being taught. And again, taking that even a step further is, why are we not teaching people about credit and how the credit system works and how to get and maintain good credit? Because it's, even to me at times, it's kind of a mystery. You know, I'm going through mortgage process recently, and you know, any big expenses where you take out credit, there's a lot of like weird little rules about how many dings on your credit can you have before your credit score goes down, or how many inquiries can affect your credit, or if you close a credit card, whether or not that's going to affect your credit score, even though you may have made all your payments. It is really kind of tricky and should be taught at the high school level. Next thing I think should absolutely be a requirement in curriculum coming out of high school should be time management. And in high school, and it should also be reiterated at the college level, basic time management skills are useful in any walk of life for any position, and in even just getting your day-to-day life done. So managing time, managing calendars, figuring out how to juggle things and prioritize, these are basic life skills that we should be taught. The next one is a biggie, and it's something that we all have to deal with. It's taxes. Not only the income tax, which is confusing in and of itself, especially if you've sat down, you know, in the United States, you have to fill out all this paperwork about deductions and all of this kind of stuff that really could impact you pretty significantly at the end of the year when you have to do your taxes. But we're also talking about other taxes and tax implications that could help save you quite a bit of money on deductions and other things that you can be taking advantage of throughout the tax year, so that when you get to the end of the year, you're not having any surprises. You know, that stuff is just not taught on any level until you actually get yourself an accountant or you sit down and read a book. Let's face it, who's reading a book about taxes? That's pretty boring stuff. It's not so boring when you have to write out a check to the government at the end of the year because you're short on your tax bill. And the next stuff that I feel should be taught is stuff that honestly I cover a lot in this channel. And the first thing is how to even pick a career. You know, at the high school level, they're just basically giving you a diploma and sending you out into the world without any skills, and most people don't have any clue. And, you know, some people opt to go into college and they pursue a degree program. Others go into the military and hope that that'll clarify things for them. But for a lot of people, there's no clarity at all. They just send them out and wish them good luck and give them a piece of paper. But I would argue that picking your career is one of the biggest and most impactful decisions that you will make in your young adult life. And you are making that decision on your career that is going to impact the rest of your life at a time when you're probably least equipped to do so effectively. And that's not a slight against the younger folks that are watching the channel. It's just at that age, and I'm thinking to myself at age, you know, let's go back to when I graduated high school, like 17, 18 years old. I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And sending you off and to make these major decisions on, you know, things that are going to add tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in cost in student loans if you decide to go the college route, but also the career trajectory that you could potentially have. If you just don't know what you're doing, you're making that decision at a time when you're probably the least mature in your adult life, but there's no guidance. So If you're watching this channel, I'm trying to provide some of that guidance for you, but that should be provided for you on some level in high school or in college. Now, I know there's people will say, well, there's guidance counselors out there that they're supposed to do that type of thing. But I just look at my own situation. I had some guidance counselors that I went to, but it wasn't a formal class that talks about like breaking all this stuff down and giving people true. You actually had to go out and sit down with a guidance counselor and seek out that guidance. And in some cases, they maybe didn't give you the best guidance or gave you pretty vague guidance, but there are ways to kind of go through and figure out the best fit for you or the options that are all out there. So the next major thing is basically the reason why I started this channel is career and interview training. So how to manage your career properly once you actually figure out what you want to do when you grow up, but then also interview strategy, how to present yourself to an employer to make yourself the most desirable candidate that you can possibly be. That stuff is not taught at all. At least it wasn't taught when I went to school. They had a career services workshop thing at Penn State where I went, but it wasn't a formal required class that they made everybody go through. And honestly, I feel like that's one class that you should be required to go to graduate from college, on how to present yourself to an employer, how to make yourself as desirable as possible, how to interview effectively. Because it's shocking the number of people that as a corporate recruiter I speak with that are woefully underprepared to sell themselves to the employer. And the next thing that should be taught is how to write an effective resume. Because the resume is a very strategic document that is not just throw your information on a piece of paper and send it out, spray and pray method. That's not an effective way to use your resume. But there's not generally any good guidance out there from the high school or college level on how to write a truly effective resume that gets results. And that's the reason why I created Resume Rocketfuel, because there was no resource out there to truly teach people not only how to physically write their resume, but then how to use it strategically in order to give yourself the best possible chance to get the job. But again, that's not taught in high school. That's not taught in college on any kind of formal level unless you actually go out and seek that information. And then the last major thing that should be taught as a required course is the biggie is retirement planning. Most of us have no clue about retirement planning, and there's all these financial gurus who out there who kind of teach all this stuff. But I feel like from a basic fundamentals or rudimentary level, we should be taught how to manage our money and how to manage our money for retirement at the age where it's the best possible time to do it. Because when you're very early in your career, it's a lot easier to put the right pieces in place then and have that power of compounding interest all across your career versus somebody who starts saving at age 40 or age 50 and has to play complete catch up. It's a lot harder to do it at that point in time. But most people enter into the workforce, and especially if you're in a lower paying position where you're not necessarily thinking about retirement, and a lot of those people actually opt out of 401k programs. And I have my own opinion on 401ks. I'll probably talk about that in another video, but a lot of people are opting out of 401k or savings programs where they can get a tax benefit and then the power of compounding interest over the course of a long period of time. But we're not taught that, and we're not taught that in any meaningful way. And it kind of almost goes on the employer. I know as a human resources person, when we would do new hire enrollments or benefit orientations, we would be spending a lot of time talking to our employees about the importance of saving. And, that was kind of a big thing. And the fact that most people had never had any formal training or formal presentation of the information was pretty sad and pretty shocking. So if you're a university and you're listening to this, or if you're a high school curriculum builder and you're listening to this, I do encourage you or implore you to really think about how you can prepare your students and prepare people to enter into the workforce in a more effective manner. And if you're somebody that is listening to all this stuff and saying, oh man, I don't really know about this or that or about this, that's where you need to start thinking about filling those gaps and seeking out the resources that you need. I can help on some of them. On some of them, I'm sure there's other channels here on YouTube that you can check out, but you should have this base level of understanding in order to be a successful human being, not just a successful career. So just some food for thought. I don't want to ramble on too long about this, but if you're interested in filling in some of those gaps on the career, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com. It's loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective. And I teach you all the behind the scenes stuff through a couple of training courses. The first one is Resume Rocketfuel. I spoke about that a little earlier, and that's going to teach you not only how to write the resume in a very effective way, but it's also designed to teach you how to use it which is something that is not being taught anywhere. So the purpose of that resume, though, is to get you that first interview. And once you get that first interview, then it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process. And that's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. And that's going to break down each step of that interviewing process and give you the skills necessary to anticipate what's going to be happening and position yourself to be the best possible candidate at each step. So if you're struggling in your job search, make sure you check those out. Appreciate you watching. If you have any other suggestions for things that should be taught in the high school and or college curriculum, leave a comment below. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.